A very good evening to all our attendees here. Today we are on a chat show face-to-face with Helen Battley, who is joining us all the way from UK to talk to us about the benefits of music and movement for holistic development of children in their early years. Hi, Helen.
Hi, thank you for having me, Dr. Basavi. It's lovely to be here.
Right, you're most welcome. And without spending much time, let me just barge into the first question for you, which is, tell us about the impact of music and movement in all areas of early child development.
Dr. Basavi, is it possible for me to see the delegates, or can I only see you? I can't see the delegates.
You won't be seeing, because this is a webinar format. So
okay, no problem then,
yes.
no problem. So I'm just going to imagine everybody else there. So I've got 26, fabulous. Well, good afternoon, everybody. I understand it's afternoon in India. It's a bit chilly here in the UK. But yes, in response to your first question, so why is music and movement so imperative in early childhood, looking at a sort of holistic approach? Well, what I'd like everybody to do, first of all, because it's much easier to understand it when we're developing it as a tangible force. So what I'd like you all to do is to cross your arms for me. So I'd like everybody to cross your arms, and then I'd like you to keep one hand up, one hand down, and to have a look to make sure they are both crossed, so making a cross shape. So folding your arms, just normal crossing your arms. And then when we stretch our arms up, bring them down, and we must fold them the other way. So now I'd like everybody to try to fold your arms the opposite way to normal. Okay, so what happened? And I'll tell you what happens, what will have happened to all of us. So as we fold our arms the natural way, we didn't have to apply cognitive processing. When we folded them the opposite way to normal, we had to think about it. We had to apply cognitive processing. Now that's why movement is instrumental in early childhood, because it stimulates the brain connections and cements the neural pathways within the architecture of the brain. So we have primary cognitive tasks. Our primary cognitive tasks as adults are speaking and listening. We can only manage one cognitive processing task at a time. So we can't speak and listen coherently, cohesively. In early childhood, because those physical skills haven't been cemented, so they haven't spent enough time on the planet, and those physical skills haven't been cemented within the architecture of the brain, all of the physical skills that children are participating in or undertaking is like for us as adults folding our arms the opposite way. They have to apply cognitive processing. So I'd like you to think about a young child in your setting. Perhaps you're asking them to put on their sandals or their shoes. Now you might be saying to them, okay, once you've popped your shoes on, I would like you to grab a bag and line up at the door. Now that child, because of the cognitive processing that's happening, is only able to think about doing up their shoes or their sandals. They're not going to be able to listen to you coherently and be able to think about the next tasks that are following on. So you're going to see that that child will either stop putting on their shoes and sandals and listen to you, or they will continue to put on their shoes and sandals and not hear the following instructions. So children need as much exposure as possible in the physical world to be able to cement that architecture in the brain. Now, as well as physical skills, we must understand as well the importance of music on development, early childhood development. So why is music so important? Well, music is innate within us. So from our time in utero, our time in our mother's womb, we would hear the repetitive sound of our mother's heartbeat. Now that lovely slow response to the heartbeat, when we hear slow music, slow rhythmic music and melodies, it makes us feel calm and relaxed as we associate the endorphins that were released during the time in utero. And the opposite is true as well. As we hear the rapid increase of a heartbeat, the same for music. If we hear fast rhythm music with a regular pulse, a fast, regular, dominant pulse, it makes us feel energized, excited. We want to move around. Now that response to music is called entrainment, rhythmic entrainment. And studies have shown that our response to music is so innate. And when we respond to music without knowing, so it could be you hear a piece of music that you're particularly fond of, and you're driving the car and you're tapping your fingers on the steering wheel, or you're tapping your foot or just clicking your fingers without realizing. So it's a subconscious act. Now, scientists have shown that that reaction, called rhythmic entrainment, stimulates the reward centers of the brain. So automatically we're feeling that sense of pro-social behavior, enjoying the company of others, feeling well-being, wanting to share in experiences. Now we can see across the globe how important music and movement is for celebration. We see music used in weddings, in various celebrations globally, and the same with dancing. Music and movement is a very uniting shared experience. As well as that, physical development and dance develop skills in problem solving, decision making, creativity and reasoning. So if you've got children working with others, they will have to adapt and move their bodies. As children learn different routines, you might want to teach them a simple routine to mimic and copy. They're developing mastery skills, so we can look at Bloom's theory of mastery there as they become and develop their adaptive competence in that. So all of these skills are underpinned through the music and movement philosophy. And I'm sure you will all agree that when you're engaged in music and dancing, that it is a reinforced state of well-being throughout that process. Is that pretty much sums up, Dr. Basavi? Sorry.
Yeah, so that answers the the question that I gave you about the impact. And we have seen that actually in our classrooms, because I'm into early childhood education, and when we interact with children who are that young, and when we get them into this classroom with music, they are overjoyed, they're overwhelmed, and they are happy to learn. And in fact, when we are doing concepts, even cognitive concepts with music, they learn it faster. So that is what we have seen. So definitely it's that impactful, and it leaves a lifelong impression.
Absolutely.
So
oh, sorry.
Yeah, please.
And just mentioning what you were saying about that lifelong impression. So there's a real strong intrinsic link between rhythm, understanding the rhythm of music, and also the rhythm of words and language acquisition. So priming early childhood with using percussion instruments, with action songs, really does help to develop language acquisition as well, which is obviously fundamental precursor for communication, language and literacy skills. So yes, absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. So my second question to you is, what are ways to promote music and movement in classroom and outside classroom settings? So what can the educators, facilitators, or parent, do about getting the children more involved with music and movement?
Okay, well, studies have shown that our engagements as adults in engaging young children into physical play and music and movement tends to be as we reflect on our own childhood. So, for example, with my 3 children, I did a lot of games and activities that I did when I was a child, so I participated in those activities. So it's really beneficial to respond and reflect on your own childhood, and to think about ways that you can engage children, and think back to the fun and engagement that you had as a child, because then you'll be passing that on, and there's so much strength in passing those stories and familiar traits onto other members of the family, and also other children within your setting. Now, looking at the home learning environment in particular, so looking at parents, we know children are going to be far more active outdoors than they are inside. So we need to ensure children have exposure to a wide variety of terrains, where they can climb trees, where they can suspend, because we know that when children are suspending, we're strengthening the shoulder girdle, which is required for writing skills. So as we're suspending, we're supporting the trapezius and the deltoid muscles. So suspension is imperative. So making sure there's opportunities for swinging as well. So if children have exposure to sitting on swings, because what we're doing there is developing our vestibular system. So that's the fluid within our inner ear to help us, so like inbuilt spirit level, to help us with balance and coordination. Nicholson's loose parts as well. I don't know if anybody knows much about loose parts play. So Nicholson's loose parts is looking at lots of different sort of everyday objects, whether it's shells, leaves, pine cones, planks, gutterings, bricks, things that don't have that sort of open-ended play where children can just create their own environment, their own imaginative world. So letting children, rather than having sort of pre-descript play toys, so dolls' houses and things like that, yes, they're great for imaginative play, but actually toys that can be anything, activities and equipment that can change and adapt according to the child's imagination and play experience. Lots of time on bicycles, lots of time to play with others, lots of dancing. If you've got a young child in your home, dancing together, it's great to get the child to create their own dance and you copy. Sometimes we think as adults, you know, we will take on that role as a scaffolder, but actually the children will have wonderful moves that we can copy too. And it will bring such joy for them to see you trying to copy some of their moves. Often there are lots of floor-based movements in early childhood, which can be quite tricky for us as adults. And outside play, again, lots of exposure to a wide variety of opportunities to explore all physical skills. And now within the early childhood setting, so within inside environment, I do a lot of work on an approach called No Chair Day. So No Chair Day is where in early childhood, we actually take away all of the chairs because children do not need to be seated on chairs. The fact that we're sort of sitting as adults, it's our conditioned behaviour. Anthropologists show, and through studies, that actually we learn better standing and moving than we do sitting. So actually we need to really look at our environment and think, okay, let's change our environment. Is it a movement space? Is it a creative space? Is it a space where we can we can develop exploration and creativity? So keep chairs for meal times, definitely, but really evaluate your space and make sure children have opportunities to write and draw, standing up, laying down on the floor, lots of exposure. You may even want to put paper underneath your tables and have them laying on their backs and colouring and drawing to boost their core strength for the muscle control.
Right. So we have, like you've said, because this is a lockdown period and we are giving home assignments to our children, we see that so many of the assignments come with the children either lying on the floor and drawing or coloring, or you know, they're moving, or there are a lot of rhymes videos where they dance and they're you know, saying the rhymes. So it comes very naturally. Movement and music is basically a very natural thing. And you know, as we grow older, we kind of get more restricted to either a sitting position or, you know, laying down and stuff, and right. So
absolutely.
Right. So
Yeah.
you know, so it comes very naturally to them, and I think that is something very, very, very important for them, because that is a way of learning. The way they learn through play, they also learn through music and movement.
Definitely.
So going to, right, so going to the next question, how can parents, you know, now that we are inside our houses, can you show, I mean, I don't know whether you're going to give us a small demo on how to teach or get involved with children in simple dance movements with music, and you know, just get them into that. So you may say, or you may just show, I don't know, that's up to you.
Okay, well, I just want to pick up on what you said there about children's innate desire to move, because absolutely children do have this innate desire to move and respond specifically to music. However, the most recent studies that came out in the UK identified that 91% of UK 4-year-olds weren't reaching the recommended levels of physical activity. So 91%, that's a staggeringly high amount, and that is going to impact on all developmental areas, 91%. Now, the recommended amount of physical activity for a child under the age of 5 is 180 minutes a day. So that's 3 hours of physical activity every day as a minimum. So children really should have exposure to even more than that, but 3 hours minimum. Now, of that 3 hours, 60 minutes of that needs to be high impact cardio activity. So we need to see the heart rate increasing, we need to see puffing and panting, perhaps the rising and lowering of the chest and shoulders as children have that exposure. So I want parents and educators really to think about those 3 hours and those 60 minutes and try and identify ways that children can access those minutes. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a very simple activity. Now, it's going to be on a chair because I want it to be inclusive for those people who perhaps can't stand. And I know we'll probably, most of us, be sitting on a chair for this activity. I do apologise for my cat behind me. He's Zoom bombed the session there, everybody. So I'm going to sit on my chair. I'm going to pop my music on. And what I want you to do is I want you to try and copy me. Now, the activities that we're doing are going to be supporting connectivity between the brain and the body. So we're going to be crossing over what's called the midline and the core line and the diagonal axis. And through doing that, we're sending synapse and neuron connectivity across the corpus callosum, which is the bridge that divides the two hemispheres of the brain. Okay, so are we ready? Let me pop some music on. Hopefully it's not going to be too loud. Here we go. Let me turn it down. Can everybody hear? Can you hear the music? Can you hear the music? Yep. Okay, so we're going to start off with our hands on our knees and we're going to alternate. So just moving our hands up and down. Now we're going to squeeze our knees. We're using the 60 combined muscles in our hands to strengthen our hands. Hands together, and we're going to rub them together. So again, stimulating all of the sensory receptors in our hands, using our arms. Now we're going to have crossing over to the shoulders and then down to the knees. Cross, cross, knee, knee. We're going to get a bit faster. So listening to the rhythm of the music if you can hear it. And now we're going down to our toes. Toes, knees, toes, knees, toes, knees, toes, knees, and rolling those arms. So again, we're crossing over this midline. We're looking at cross laterality. And now we're going to lift up one heel onto the chair. So we're using our core strength. Our muscles develop in what's called the snowflake effect. So that's from the top down, from the inside out. So we need to be controlling our core strength. Down to your toes. Now, standing up and then down. Up and down. Up and down. Up. Now legs out in front of you. And then you're going to kick those legs. So again, we're using our core strength. And shoulder, shoulder, knee, knee, toes. I hope you're joining in. And roll. Other way. And then out, out. And up, up, out, out, down. Up, up, out, out, down. Up, up, out, out, down. Roll. And finish. Okay. So what happened there? Let me fill you in. So as well as developing both sides of the brain, we also looked at coordination, control, balance, developing all of the muscle groups, rhythmic entrainment as we were responding to the music, using the rhythm of the music. We were thinking about patterns, positional language, up and down, mathematical concepts, so much that was discovered, language, following instructions, listening skills. Okay.
Right, so that was lovely, that was wonderful, and we look forward to the workshop that's coming up on 14th.
Yes.
And Helen, here I have your article that you had given to us for, for our upcoming magazine, and there, it's just in front of me, wherein you have written that child obesity is considered to be at epidemic levels and it's in rise. And is expected to continue. In the next 5 years, the number of obese children worldwide is predicted to reach a staggering 75 million. Mm-hmm. Obese children are significantly more at risk of becoming obese adults. So looking at today's lifestyle that we have, children more glued to all kind of gadgets.
Yes.
They are just, into glued to all of this, to the TV, to XYZ, and they're not moving. They don't even want to come, get to the next room. So we need to get our children more active, more, involved in the activities. instead of just being, a spectator. So I would just like to share the screen for our upcoming workshop that is going to be held on 14th.
Okay.
Yes. So I'm just going to make this announcement about this workshop. The registrations are on. The links are already shared. To know more, you can visit our Facebook page, our Twitter and Insta social handles. And so Helen is going to do this workshop for early childhood educators as well as interested parents who want to know more about the benefits of music and movement and how to imbibe that in children. And that's going to be a complete workshop of 1.5 hours. That's 190 minutes. And so we look forward to you joining us for that workshop. And I think we have come to the end of today's very short chat session. And Helen, it was wonderful hearing all this, and I look forward to more involvement in the workshop, because we are all going to, do with you, practice, and have a lot of fun.
It will be very live, very interactive, and I'll be showing really simple ways to engage children through physical activity, looking particularly at affordances plays, so looking at stimuli, really simple, easy stimuli that will engage children in physical activity, music and movement.
Correct. So it was lovely having you, and say bye. See you again on 14th, and everybody rocks. Bye-bye.
Lovely, thank you. Do we have questions for Dr. Vasavi? Do we have, I see some questions.
I have not seen a question. Can we see a question? I don't think so.
Somebody here said, please share how music and movement leads to kinesthetic development. Well, of course, kinesthetic development is a whole body approach to movement. Now, music, as I spoke about earlier, is all about entrainment. So our response to music, if you use music that you recognize and you enjoy, your response to that music will be innate, as I spoke about earlier. And as we're doing that, we're responding using our bodies subconsciously. And if we add to that movement, so whether that's directed movement, adult-led movement, adult-initiated movement, or child-initiated movement, we are supporting our kinesthetic approach to development. Somebody said, I want to know which kind of music is good for music and movement. That's an interesting question. So which kind of music is good for music and movement? Well, my answer is, it depends on what kind of music you like. If you're an educator, what's most important is the children seeing your response. Children are imitators, so they will imitate, and they're watching everything that we do. Now, if they see you responding to a piece of music, they're used to you behaving in a certain way, and then a piece of music comes on and they see a different version of you, a version of you that's almost sort of very different to the sort of educator that perhaps they normally see. That's going to have an incredible response on them as they see that response within you. So I would recommend using music that you enjoy. So reflecting on your childhood, reflecting on music that you enjoy, perhaps certain memories. Also ensuring that children have exposure to different genres. So classical music like Bach, Ludovico Einaudi is fabulous. Drum and bass, hip hop. I always love using house music and techno because it has that strong recurrent beat. As soon as you use something like that, the children will start jumping. But please be careful of lyrical content when using music. Please make sure that it is appropriate, and where necessary, use a radio edit version. But yes, and please have a look on my website, because you can sign up for a free music download, which has a list of lots of different music to use for different topics and genres. So, for example, there's a session on dinosaurs, and it recommends different music for a dinosaur topic. Okay, I think that's the questions, Dr.
Right.
Savage. One more. Can you please share the links? Okay, so all the links are on my website, which is musicandmovement.org.uk. You can also see my blog there, which is part of my research as an early childhood physical development consultant. And if you do have any questions, then I'm sure we can address them at the workshop, which is going to be very exciting, lots of fun, and lots of interaction as well.
Okay, so I think we're done with the Q&A. And right, so thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you, Helen.
Thank you.
It's been lovely. Yes, and see you soon again. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.